bone is. So sternum, hyoid bone, the mandible is here, easy to find. You can palpate to the end of it, basically the corner of the mouth, the jaw, and so on. So you got good landmarks to start off with. The first muscle you're going to identify, and again, a lot of times they slice these guys because of the way they prep them and stuff. So again, don't be all worried if the stuff's all chewed up. Look for the fiber orientation, will help you with the muscle identification. So the first muscle you're going to look for from the sternum to the hyoid bone, again, notice the fibers run in this direction. See the orientation straight up and down? That muscle there is called the sternohyoid muscle, from the sternum to the hyoid bone. Easy. Over here, above that vein, the fibers run in this direction. That's called the mylohyoid. So sternohyoid to mylohyoid. Again, that line there helps you differentiate those two muscles, basically. Easy. Mandible, right? Along each mandible here, there and there are what's called the digastric muscles. So it runs along the mandible that way, runs along the mandible that way, digastric versus digastric. Where's your masseter? Right? Right at the corner of your jaw, basically. So at the end of the mandible here, this big muscle belly, that's the masseter muscle right there. It's right at the corner of the mouth, the end of the mandible, up towards the cheekbone. That there is the masseter, basically. Just like you. Just clench down, pops out right there for yourself. Behind the masseter, going posterior that way, see this big glandular-looking thing? It's not muscle. There's no fibers in there. That there is a big salivary gland, your parotid salivary gland. Okay? So, sternohyoid, mylohyoid, digastric on either side, transverse jugular vein, responsible for that too, masseter, and then the salivary gland, the parotid salivary gland. Those structures there. The last one for yourself on the board up here is the sternomastoid. If that jugular is still intact, which it should be, jugular is still intact, right underneath it at an angle is the sternomastoid. From the sternum to, again, the mastoid process. So again, you can see it very nicely. Peel this vein back. See these fibers going this way at an angle, just like that where the probe is? That there is the sternomastoid going towards the mastoid process. So again, it runs at an angle right underneath that jugular vein. So it's easy to find that way too for yourself. On your lists here, it also says cleidomastoid. Just scratch out cleidomastoid. We're not going to do that one, basically. We have sternocleidomastoid. Again, I showed you in lecture. The sternum, off the clavicle, it fuses together to the mastoid process. The cats, they have two muscles, sternomastoid, cleidomastoid, two separate things. So again, you can never find it. It's deep to the sternomastoid, but it comes off the clavicle, goes up that way. Don't worry about it. Go with the sternomastoid, basically. Okay? So, sternohyoid, mylohyoid, digastrics, transverse jugular, masseter, salivary gland, parotid salivary gland, then sternomastoid that way. Okay? Clean up your neck, work on those muscles, basically.